And I said, yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's wonderful. And then immediately the doors closed.
So very interesting. Now, there was another very key person in this story, right? Lady Crown. How does the story proceed? What happens next?
Well, because we were being blocked and it was obvious, I spoke to some of our key people in New Zealand who hold seals, who have authority, and asked them to contact the Governor-General and asked them to contact the Prime Minister and ask what was going on. Immigration, we just got past immigration. We obviously knew what was going on. And one of our guys, Modi Crown Tane, fit to wait, he actually contacted the Governor-General, the Secretary, and it was then that we started to get information that we never knew in this lifetime that had actually transpired without closure given to the Crown of the Māori Nation. So the information that came through was that there was no longer a Crown of England, a 50-50 partner to the Te Tiriti. It was no more. It was actually dead, and it had been dead for a generation, and we were not told. And here are our people having all these treaty claims and tribunals and with the Crown, who we don't even know who they are now, but we have found out it is Her Majesty the Queen and Right of New Zealand, which is registered in Washington, D.C. It's a company. And so the authorities...
So this is huge. Can we just pause here for a minute? So basically, I mean, this is absolutely earth-shaking, right? So basically, you found out through this conversation that another Maori Crown had with the secretary to the Governor-General's office, right? That the Queen of England, whom we know is Queen Elizabeth II, and is supposedly had been presumed to be the signatory to a treaty, a long-standing treaty between New Zealand and the Queen of England, no longer was in that position?
No. She's vacated. The treaty does not exist. The Titiri, I'm talking about Te Titiri or Waitangi 1840. The treaty is different. It's an English version. What I'm talking about is the Māori version, Te Titiri or Waitangi 1840. And she's vacated, and they never gave us closure. But they've been sitting there as recently as last week in their little chairs, on their little pedestals, still negotiating with our people. So they're imposters. They're fraud. They do not belong in our country. And they then started to, the Governor-General clearly said that he hadn't sworn an oath, and he just started to quote the 1986 Constitution Act, which is where he gets his authority from, which is an act. So they're just actors. So the Queen's just gone. We didn't know. So we didn't have to worry about severing any cord with the Queen. It had already been done. She did it herself. Well, we did come to find out now. So here we are. We're the only Crown standing.
This is the other part of it, and this is the other really huge part of it, isn't it? That the people who are running the government of New Zealand, whom I think most people in the world imagine is connected to the Crown, that is, you know, the English Queen, that is Queen Elizabeth. That is not really true. The people who are running the government of New Zealand are actually this corporation. Did you want to tell us the name of this corporation again, Lady Crown? What exactly is it? Because it is so misleading, isn't it? And perhaps this is the core of the deception over here, because people think there is a Queen of New Zealand.
You can Google it. It's very easy to find. It's Her Majesty the Queen in Right of New Zealand, CIK number 0000216105.
Her Majesty in Right of the Queen of New Zealand Corporation.
Corporation. And they're getting their authority from a piece of paper, a corporation registered in the United States, Washington, D.C. So when you have a treaty partner that's vacated and there's only one treaty partner standing, under even their acts, if you look at their acts, the demise of the Crown is that all the functions and everything that goes with it are to be transferred to the Crown. The only Crown, or the successor, the only successor standing is the Crown of the Māori Nation.
So when this happened, and the person who spoke to the Maori Crown over there is someone from the Governor-General's office, did he give an indication as to when this happened? He mentioned a generation ago, right? He said the Queen of England vacated a generation ago.
Generations ago.
So, I mean, it could have been, what, 20, 30 years ago? Is that?
The generation would be, my mother's generation would be 70, 80 years ago.
70, 80 years ago.
A
So
life-
we don't have a date as to when this really happened yet. So
Oh.
is this part of what you all are, investigating currently and trying to find out more about?
Well, really, Her Majesty the Queen and Right of New Zealand was registered in 1934.
Registered in 1934. Wow. So there's the answer.
There's the answer.
1934. So since 1934, gosh, this is almost 100 years later, isn't it?
Exactly a generation.
Huge deception.
Other people with authority have asked. Shauna Alliance, who is the Chief Justice of New Zealand, does the New Zealand Parliament assume its authority by means of a constitution unwritten? They don't have a constitution. This Parliament in New Zealand does not have a constitution. The only living constitution in Aotearoa is He Wakaputanga, 1835. Which is the first document that ever landed on our lands, and it's still alive today. And I actually brought it forth into our space.
And that is something from the tribes of New Zealand, right? That's from the Crown and the tribes. And this is before that Treaty of Waitangi in 1840.
That's the true crown.
It precedes it, yeah.
Yes.
So that's the true crown. So, wow, how does that make you feel, Lady Crown? Are you all the only crown standing then in New Zealand? They wouldn't let you in the country because they knew that.
Yeah, they knew.
And can I just add as well, if we want to look at this from the corporate perspective, from the corporation side of things, Lady Crown is actually a national of New Zealand. So essentially, they haven't even just gone above those rulings, they've actually gone within their construct and broken their own rulings because
They've broken their own.
Yes.
It's treason. Treason against the Crown of the Māori Nation to not allow me to come back into my country. We're the treaty partner of the treaty. We are the only crown in New Zealand.
It's probably too early. I don't know when exactly all of these events transpired, Lady Brown. Maybe that's something you want to tell us. I was going to ask, does Jacinda Ardern and the government of New Zealand, do they know about this? Have you been able to write to them currently? Today's the 12th.
Thursday and Friday.
Saturday. Okay.
That's correct.
9th and 10th.
Friday.
Wow.
Thursday the 10th, if I'm correct.
Oh, 10th and 11th, but Thursday and Friday. Got it. Yeah, today's the 12th.
The 10th of December, Friday the 11th of December. And Saturday, our people gathered when they found out they had a meeting, and they all got, they were all alerted to the fact and the truth. They all realised they'd all been duped, and they started to activate as Crown and actually put forward a declaration, a judgment against the government. And what it's basically saying is stating the facts that we're sharing with you now, that the Queen Elizabeth is no longer a defender of the faith, never was. And the Governor-General stated that clearly. When it states in their documents that she's a defender of the faith, well, it's not true. And they do not swear an oath, so they're going against their own constitution or their own constitutional act. Therefore, this declaration that has been written and is now getting thumbprinted and autographed by all the Crown that is standing. The final passage, which is probably the most important passage, and I'll read it to you, is, "We assert the remedy for the presumed Her Majesty the Queen in right of New Zealand, any and all derivatives, appellations, and like as well all agencies, ministers, police commissioner, constables, judges, justice of the peace, regal and vice-regal, and all under secretaries or civilians and any person commissioned by the same, that the demise of the Crown of England is now dead. We assert and direct that the presumed actors of Her Majesty the Queen and Right of New Zealand Company transfer all the functions, duties, powers, authorities, rights, privileges, and dignitaries belonging to the Crown of England and the Crown of the Māori Nation to the only successor standing, the Crown of the Māori Nation, hereby evident without autograph and thumbprint.
Wow, that is absolutely huge, absolutely stunning. So this is the declaration that I understand is in draft, and you are waiting to put people's thumbprints together and so forth, and then send it out. Do you plan to make this a kind of an international announcement?
Correct. It's going to go to every embassy around the world, all the Crown of England agencies, prime ministers, secretaries, chief justices, attorney generals, governor generals around the world. We've got plenty of people that are going to alert everyone about what these imposters are doing in our country. And it's the Crown of the Modi Nation that is standing right now and actually thumbprinting and autographing. And I know that you two are also Crown. So there's many of us that are witnessing and a part of this declaration to the world, to the earth.
Absolutely. And do you think, Lady Crown, it's because of the ways in which they've kept this knowledge from people, that literally everybody is sovereign and sovereign, standing with God, born alive, born free, and can simply, claim that heritage by getting rid of that birth certificate? That birth certificate fraud is at the heart of all of this. Do you think it's a deception, that birth certificate deception, that's accounted for this incredible situation?
I mean, not everybody wants to be Crown of the Modi Nation, and I'm talking about my own people, and that's fine. No one will trespass, no one will make them do anything. Those that do stand are the only ones who will have the power and authority to state this declaration or make a claim on behalf of the Modi people. Once you return to the whenua, the land, only then can you speak and have that power and authority to actually stand up as Crown. And that's it. And while we're at sea, under maritime law,